Who are you? Why are you here? Personal identity is one of the most enigmatic questions of human existence. Philosophers and thinkers have explored what truly defines us as individuals, investigating the intersection between the mind and identity. The human mind, with its vastness and complexity, challenges our understanding, and our perception of ourselves is shaped by various factors. Through psychoanalysis, we explore the different layers of the self, delving into the depths of our essence. This approach leads to a contemplation of the meaning of our role in the world, provoking reflection on purpose and existence. Chapter 1: The Nature of the Self. The concept of the self, with a capital S, holds a central place in analytical psychology and is especially developed in the works of Carl Jung. Differentiated from the ego, the self is described as a transcendent entity that goes beyond individual consciousness. In Ion, Researches into the Phenomenology of the Self, Jung defines the self as the center of the psyche and an archetype of wholeness. This conception suggests that the self is the unifying force of the psyche, integrating all parts of the personality, both conscious and unconscious. Jung describes the self as an entity that not only encompasses the conscious and unconscious but also possesses an instinctive nature. Here, the concept aligns with the idea of a collective unconscious, where basic impulses and instincts are shared by all humanity. The self, in this context, is governed by these natural impulses, which often manifest in ways that escape conscious control. For example, a person may feel an inexplicable attraction to certain symbols or myths, reflecting an instinctive recognition of universal archetypes residing in the collective unconscious. The differentiation between the self and the ego is crucial for understanding the human psyche. While the ego is responsible for our conscious identity and is influenced by individual and social experience, the self is seen as a totality that transcends these experiences. The ego, limited and often influenced by social norms, represents only a small part of the total psyche. In contrast, the self includes the ego but also transcends it, encompassing aspects that the ego may not acknowledge or integrate. An everyday example of this can be seen when someone finds themselves acting in surprising ways, such as during crises, where unexpected and profound responses emerge, indicating the presence of broader unconscious forces. Within this perspective, Jung introduces the concept of individuation, which is the process by which a person becomes a whole individual, realizing the full potential of their personality. Individuation is not just the development of the ego but the integration of all parts of the psyche, including the shadow, the unrecognized or repressed aspects. Through individuation, the self is fully manifested, allowing the individual to achieve a state of internal wholeness and harmony. The self also has distinct functions, often seen as having two main agendas: healing and expression. The healing function relates to the self's capacity to integrate fragmented parts of the psyche, promoting internal unity and cohesion. This can be observed in therapeutic processes, where integrating repressed memories or aspects of the personality leads to a sense of completeness and well-being. For example, a person who confronts and accepts past traumas during therapy may experience relief and integration, reflecting the healing promoted by the action of the self. The second agenda, expression, refers to the innate desire of the self to manifest and express itself in the world. This expression can take many forms, from artistic creativity to the pursuit of meaningful life purposes. Jung suggests that art, religion, and spirituality are direct manifestations of this need for the self to express itself and find meaning. A person may, for instance, feel a deep need to engage in creative activities, like painting or music, as a way to express aspects of their psyche that do not find a voice in everyday life. It is important to note that the pursuit of the self's expression often leads to a confrontation with the ego, which may resist changes or the integration of unknown aspects of the psyche. This conflict is an essential part of the individuation process, where the individual must reconcile the ego with the broader demands of the self. In practical terms, this can be seen when someone decides to change careers or lifestyle in search of a more authentic and fulfilling life, despite initial insecurities or fears. Furthermore, the self is often symbolically represented in dreams and myths, appearing as guiding figures, totemic animals, or even divine beings. These symbols reflect the psyche's attempt to communicate the importance of the self and its influence on conscious life. For example, a dream where someone is guided by a wise elder or encounters a protective animal can be interpreted as a representation of the self, offering guidance and protection during times of transition or challenge. The influence of the self in everyday life is profound, though often subtle. It manifests in moments of intuition, in emotional responses to complex situations, and in the feeling of being on a meaningful path. The self is not just a theoretical structure but a lived reality, revealed in how people feel and respond to the world around them. This can be observed in how someone feels drawn to certain choices or life paths that seem to resonate with an inner calling or a sense of purpose. Jung's approach to the self emphasizes the need to recognize and integrate this central aspect of the psyche to achieve a full and balanced life. He proposes that ignorance or denial of the self can lead to a fragmented life, where the individual feels divided or disconnected. The process of individuation, therefore, is not just a journey of self-knowledge but a quest for a more integrated and authentic life, where the individual can live according to their deepest truths. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Your subscription helps us keep creating content with love and dedication. Chapter 2: Development of the Ego and the Sense of Self. The development of the ego is a fundamental process in forming human personality, a topic explored in depth by Sigmund Freud. In The Ego and the ID, Freud describes the ego as the organized and rational part of the mind, responsible for mediating the demands of the ID, instinctive impulses, and the constraints of the external reality. The ego develops from the ID as the child begins to interact with the world around them and learns to differentiate between internal needs and the limitations imposed by the environment. This process is essential for establishing a functional identity and adapting to the demands of everyday life. The ego not only deals with reality but also plays a crucial role in constructing personal narratives that shape our understanding of ourselves and the world. Paul Ricoeur, in Time and Narrative, argues that our personal stories are adaptive ways of organizing experience and making sense of our place in reality. The narratives we create about our lives help consolidate identity and establish a sense of continuity over time. For example, in remembering and telling significant events from our lives, we not only record facts but interpret and give meaning to these events, creating a narrative cohesion that sustains our perception of who we are. These personal narratives, while useful, can also be limiting. They may be based on distorted perceptions or psychological defenses that the ego uses to protect the individual from anxieties or traumas. In this context, the distinction between the self and the sense of self becomes relevant. Donald Winnicott, in his works on the true and false self, explores the idea that the sense of self may not fully reflect the authentic self. Winnicott suggests that the true self is the genuine and spontaneous expression of a person's individuality, while the false self is a mask or facade developed to protect the true self from perceived threats or conform to external expectations. The false self forms as an adaptive defense, allowing the individual to function in environments that do not recognize or value their authenticity. For example, a person may adopt behaviors or attitudes that do not reflect their true nature to meet the expectations of parents, society, or other authority figures. This adaptation, while sometimes necessary, often leads to a feeling of alienation or disconnection from oneself, as if the true identity is hidden or repressed. The true self, on the other hand, is associated with a sense of authenticity and internal congruence. When a person is in touch with their true self, there is a sense of freedom and spontaneity, an ability to act according to their deepest desires and values without the need to conform to external norms. This authenticity is often associated with a sense of psychological well-being and personal fulfillment. The distinction between the self and the sense of self is crucial for understanding how people navigate between authenticity and social adaptation. Healthy ego development involves not only the ability to handle external and internal reality but also the integration of these different parts of the psyche. A well-developed ego can recognize the ID's needs and impulses, deal with external reality's demands, and maintain a connection with the true self. This allows the individual to live authentically while also adapting to the world's demands. The challenge of living authentically is often illustrated through moral or existential dilemmas, where personal choices conflict with external or internal expectations. For example, a person may feel a strong calling to an artistic career but face family pressure to pursue a more conventional and stable profession. This conflict can generate tension between the true self and the false self, where the genuine expression of talents and interests is suppressed in favor of external security or approval. In this context, the therapeutic process, as conceived by Winnicott and other psychoanalysts, aims to help the individual recognize and strengthen the true self while reducing the dependence on defenses and masks of the false self. Therapy becomes a space where the individual can freely explore their internal and external experiences without fear of judgment or repression. This safe space allows for the expression of the true self and the integration of previously repressed or ignored parts of the psyche. The development of the ego, therefore, is a continuous journey of self-exploration and growth. It is not static but evolves as new experiences are assimilated and new narratives are constructed. As the individual engages in this journey, the sense of self also becomes more refined and aligned with the true self. This alignment not only promotes greater authenticity but also facilitates a deeper sense of purpose and direction in life. Chapter 3: Complexes and Altered States. Complexes are an essential part of analytical psychology, especially as developed by Carl Jung. In Psychological Types, Jung defines complexes as fragmented personalities or subpersonalities that operate within the psyche. These complexes consist of a core of intense emotional experiences, often originating from traumatic situations or significant experiences. They can profoundly influence a person's behavior, often unconsciously. A complex can be understood as an autonomous part of the psyche that has its energy and motivations. These personality fragments are activated by stimuli that evoke the emotional memory associated with the complex's core. For example, someone with an inferiority complex may react exaggeratedly to criticism, even when constructive. This complex may have formed from past experiences of humiliation or failure, leaving a lasting emotional mark. Jung observes that complexes can dominate a person's consciousness, leading them to act in ways that do not correspond to their usual behavior. This phenomenon is illustrated by clinical case studies, as described in Man and His Symbols. In a classic example, Jung recounts the case of a patient who exhibited extremely dependent and submissive behavior in social situations. This behavior was associated with a submission complex, originating from a family dynamic where she was constantly subjugated and devalued. When this complex was activated, the patient found herself unable to assert her needs or desires, even when appropriate or necessary. Complexes, therefore, function as secondary personalities that can take control of the psyche at specific moments. They are not necessarily negative but can become problematic if not recognized and integrated. Jung believed that integrating complexes was essential for psychological growth and individuation. Individuation, in this context, refers to becoming a complete individual, where all parts of the psyche, including the complexes, are integrated into a cohesive whole. Furthermore, complexes can be linked to altered states of consciousness. When a complex is activated, there can be a significant shift in the individual's perception and emotional response, leading to a state of dissociation or alienation. These altered states can manifest as feelings of being disconnected from reality or observing oneself from an external perspective. This dissociation is often a psychological defense against the emotional pain associated with the complex. An example of how complexes can induce altered states is found in accounts of people experiencing panic attacks. During an attack, the fear complex may be activated, leading to an intense fight or flight response. The person may experience symptoms like a rapid heartbeat, sweating, and an overwhelming sense of impending danger, even in the absence of a real threat. These symptoms are accompanied by a sense of unreality or depersonalization, where the individual feels disconnected from their body or surroundings. This altered state is a manifestation of the emotional intensity and psychic energy released by the complex. Understanding complexes and the altered states they can induce is fundamental to Jungian psychotherapy. The treatment aims to help the patient become aware of these complexes and integrate them healthfully. This involves recognizing the patterns of behavior and thought that arise when a complex is activated, as well as exploring the underlying emotions and experiences that fuel these patterns. Through this process, the individual can begin to disarm the disproportionate influence of the complexes and regain control over their emotional and behavioral responses. It is important to note that complexes are not static entities. They can evolve and change over time as the individual goes through different experiences and challenges. For example, someone who has worked to overcome an inadequacy complex may develop greater self-confidence and self-acceptance, which in turn can transform the nature of the complex. Rather than being a source of anxiety or insecurity, the complex can become an area of strength and resilience, providing valuable insights into the personal growth journey. Chapter 4: Therapy and Self-Knowledge. The journey to self-knowledge and a deep understanding of identity is a complex task that often requires distinguishing between life events and the true essence of who we are. Viktor Frankl, in his work Man's Search for Meaning, argues that a person's identity should not be defined solely by the adverse circumstances they face. Frankl, who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps, emphasizes that even in the most extreme situations, individuals retain the ability to choose their attitudes and find meaning. This capacity to transcend circumstances and seek purpose is a manifestation of the core of human identity, which is not limited to experiences of suffering or challenge. This distinction is crucial in therapeutic practice, where the aim is to help individuals recognize that while their past experiences, especially adverse ones, may have a profound impact, they do not entirely define who they are. Alice Miller's work, The Drama of the Gifted Child, explores how family dynamics and childhood traumas can shape self-image and influence psychological development. Miller highlights that children often internalize their parents' expectations and criticisms, leading to a disconnection between the true self and the self constructed to meet external demands. These experiences can result in a distorted self-image, where the individual sees themselves through the lens of traumas and internalized criticisms rather than their true nature. Therapy, in this context, acts as an essential tool for decoupling identity from past experiences. Irvin D. Yalom, in Existential Psychotherapy, describes therapy as a process of exploring and understanding one's life experiences to reconcile the past and present. Therapy helps individuals recognize and validate their experiences while also understanding that these experiences do not determine their worth or potential. The goal is to promote a healthy integration of past events, allowing the person to free themselves from the shackles of trauma and build a more authentic and free identity. In therapeutic practice, a fundamental step is helping individuals recognize and process the emotions associated with traumas and difficult experiences. These emotions can often be repressed or not fully understood, leading to defensive or self-sabotaging behaviors. For example, a person who experienced rejection during childhood may develop a deep fear of intimacy or a tendency to isolate emotionally. Therapy offers a safe space to explore these emotions, allowing the person to experience them in a controlled manner and find healthier ways of coping with them. Additionally, therapy can help challenge the internal narratives that have formed over time. These narratives are often based on distorted or negative beliefs about oneself, such as the feeling of not being enough or the belief that it is inevitable to repeat destructive patterns. The therapeutic process involves questioning these beliefs and working to develop a more positive and realistic narrative. This is done through techniques like cognitive restructuring, where the therapist and patient work together to identify and reframe negative and self-limiting thoughts. The therapeutic approach may also include exploring personal values and meanings. Yalom highlights the importance of finding purpose and meaning in life as a central element of mental health. During therapy, individuals are encouraged to reflect on what is truly important to them, their core values, and how these values can guide their choices and actions. This reflection helps build an identity based on authentic principles rather than just reactions to past experiences. Another important aspect of therapy is strengthening emotional resilience. Through the therapeutic process, individuals learn to develop a greater capacity to deal with stress and adversity. This does not mean avoiding suffering but rather learning to face it in a way that does not compromise the sense of self. Resilience is cultivated by building coping skills, developing a support network, and strengthening the sense of self-efficacy, the belief in one's ability to face challenges and achieve goals. Finally, therapy offers a space for experimenting with new ways of being and acting. As individuals work to integrate their experiences and redefine their identity, they can begin to explore new ways of interacting with the world. This may include practicing assertive behaviors, expressing emotions more openly, or making decisions based on personal values rather than fears or external expectations. This experimentation is a vital part of the self-knowledge process, allowing the person to discover new possibilities for their life. Chapter 5: consciousness and behavior patterns. Identifying and understanding behavior patterns are fundamental components of self-exploration and personal change. Aaron Beck, a pioneer of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, dedicates himself to studying how thoughts influence emotions and behaviors. In Cognitive Therapy of Depression, Beck argues that dysfunctional thought patterns, often called cognitive distortions, are responsible for negative emotions and self-sabotaging behaviors. CBT works to identify these patterns and replace them with more realistic and adaptive thoughts. These behavior patterns are often automatic and occur without the individual's full awareness. For example, someone may develop the habit of avoiding social situations due to an underlying belief that they will be rejected or judged. This avoidance behavior may be sustained by automatic negative thoughts like "no one will like me" or "I'll do something wrong and look ridiculous." CBT seeks to bring these thoughts to consciousness, challenge them, and replace them with more balanced thoughts, such as "it's impossible to please everyone, but that doesn't mean I can't have good social interactions." In addition, CBT utilizes various techniques to help individuals identify and modify these patterns. One strategy is cognitive reappraisal, where patients are encouraged to examine the evidence for and against their automatic beliefs. For example, by analyzing a past social event where the interaction was positive, the individual may begin to challenge the belief that they always fail in social contexts. This cognitive restructuring process is essential for changing maladaptive behavior patterns and promoting healthier and more adaptive responses to situations. Alfred Adler, an influential psychotherapist and founder of individual psychology, offers a complementary perspective on behavior patterns. In Understanding Human Nature, Adler suggests that human behavior is oriented towards life goals and that even seemingly irrational actions have an underlying logic. He argues that behaviors express unconscious goals that people have to achieve a sense of superiority or security. For example, a person who constantly procrastinates may be unconsciously avoiding the possibility of failure or criticism, preferring the comfort of not trying over the insecurity of performance. Adler emphasizes that to fully understand a person's behavior, it is crucial to understand the context of their life goals and underlying feelings of inferiority or insecurity. He notes that children, when faced with situations where they feel powerless or inferior, develop behavioral strategies to cope with these feelings. These behavioral patterns may persist into adulthood, manifesting in ways that seem illogical or irrational but, in fact, serve a deeper psychological purpose. The logic underlying seemingly irrational behaviors is often related to Adler's concept of lifestyle, which is the unique set of strategies a person develops to deal with the world. For example, someone frequently criticized in childhood may develop a lifestyle based on perfection, constantly striving to avoid mistakes as a way to protect themselves from criticism. While this behavior may be seen as a pursuit of excellence, it can also be a defensive strategy to avoid the discomfort of disapproval. Awareness of these patterns and their origins allows for a more effective therapeutic approach. Both CBT and Adlerian psychology agree that bringing these patterns to awareness is the first step toward change. Once the individual understands the underlying purpose of their behaviors, they can explore alternative ways to achieve their life goals in healthier and more adaptive ways. For example, instead of avoiding challenging situations, the person can learn to approach these challenges more proactively and confidently. Integrating these therapeutic approaches allows for a deeper understanding of behavior patterns and their motivations. By exploring automatic thoughts and cognitive distortions, as CBT does, and investigating life goals and lifestyles, as Adler proposes, therapists can help patients develop a more holistic view of their behaviors. This understanding facilitates developing strategies to modify dysfunctional behaviors and promote greater emotional and psychological well-being. Chapter 6: The Importance of Dreams and Feelings. Dreams have been a source of fascination and study throughout human history. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology perspective, detailed in Man and His Symbols, dreams are seen as a form of communication from the psyche. They represent a bridge between the conscious and unconscious, offering a window into internal processes that usually remain beyond the reach of our daily consciousness. For Jung, dreams are not mere random or meaningless constructs but significant messages that can reveal hidden aspects of the psyche. According to Jung, dreams use symbolic language, expressing unconscious contents in ways that may seem strange or mysterious at first glance. These dream symbols often have archetypal meanings, resonating with universal themes and collective human experiences. For example, dreaming of water may symbolize the unconscious or deep emotions, while the presence of a shadow figure may represent repressed or unacknowledged aspects of the self. Therefore, dream interpretation does not limit itself to a superficial analysis of images but involves a deep exploration of symbolic meanings that can provide valuable insights into the dreamer's inner life. Dreams can also act as a compensatory mechanism, balancing aspects of the psyche that are being neglected or underdeveloped in conscious life. For instance, someone living a highly rational and controlled life might have vivid and chaotic dreams, reflecting an unconscious need to integrate more emotion and spontaneity into their life. This compensatory function of dreams suggests that they not only reveal but also guide the individual, pointing to areas that need attention and development. Besides dreams, feelings play a crucial role in self-knowledge and understanding the psyche. Daniel Goleman, in his work Emotional Intelligence, highlights that feelings are automatic responses that can often be difficult to control. However, he argues that although automatic, feelings can be understood and managed effectively. Emotional intelligence, as Goleman defines it, involves recognizing, understanding, and regulating our emotions, as well as recognizing and influencing the emotions of others. The autonomy of feelings can be both a blessing and a challenge. On the one hand, emotions provide essential information about our needs, desires, and limits. They are internal indicators that help us navigate life's complexities and make informed decisions. For instance, feeling anxious before a high-risk situation may signal that we need to prepare better or reconsider our options. On the other hand, when misunderstood or mismanaged, feelings can lead to impulsive or harmful reactions that may not align with our goals and values. Goleman's approach emphasizes that the key to emotional self-knowledge is the awareness of our emotions in real time, which he calls emotional awareness. This awareness allows us to identify and name our emotions as they occur, which is the first step to effective management. From this awareness, it is possible to develop skills to regulate these emotions, such as breathing techniques to reduce anxiety or mindfulness practices to increase calm and mental clarity. Managing emotions also includes developing empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Empathy improves interpersonal relationships and enriches our understanding of ourselves as we become more aware of how our emotions connect and interact with those of others. For example, recognizing sadness in another person and connecting with that feeling can make us more aware of our experiences of sadness and how we deal with it. Therefore, dreams and feelings are two essential facets of the inner life that provide valuable insights into the psyche state. While dreams connect us to unconscious processes and reveal unresolved desires, fears, and conflicts, feelings provide an emotional compass to navigate everyday experiences. Together, they form an internal guidance system that, if properly understood and integrated, can lead to deeper self-knowledge and personal fulfillment. It is important to note that both dream interpretation and emotional management are skills that can be developed over time. They require practice, reflection, and often the support of a therapist or mentor who can provide guidance and perspective. However, the investment in this journey of self-knowledge is profoundly rewarding, as it allows the individual to live more authentically and in tune with their deepest values and desires. Chapter 7: Energy and Meaning of Life. The vital energy we feel in our lives can be a powerful indicator of how aligned we are with our activities and the sense we give to our existence. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, in Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, explores the concept of flow, a state of complete immersion in an activity. This state of flow is characterized by a sense of euphoria and clarity, where time seems to pass without us noticing, and all actions flow effortlessly. Csikszentmihalyi describes flow as an experience of being so engaged in an activity that everything else is temporarily set aside. This experience is often accompanied by an increase in energy and a sense of well-being. Energy, in this context, is not just physical but also mental and emotional, reflecting a state of alignment between the individual and the activity. This alignment indicates that we are involved in something that deeply resonates with our interests and skills, providing an intrinsic source of motivation and satisfaction. The flow theory suggests that to achieve this state, a balance between the task's challenges and the individual's skills is necessary. When the skills are adequate to face the challenges, the activity becomes engaging and rewarding. However, if the challenges are too great, it can result in anxiety; if they are too small, in boredom. Finding this balance is crucial to maintaining the flow state and, consequently, a sense of vitality and purpose. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, complements this perspective by discussing the importance of the search for meaning as essential for psychological well-being. Frankl, based on his experiences as a prisoner in concentration camps during World War II, argues that life's meaning is a powerful force that can sustain humans even in the most adverse circumstances. He suggests that the search for a purpose or personal mission is fundamental to developing a full and meaningful life. According to Frankl, suffering is inherent to the human condition, but how we choose to respond to it defines our sense of life. The vital energy we feel is often renewed or drained by how we find and attribute meaning to our experiences. When we can find meaning in our lives, even in the face of challenges, this deep understanding can revitalize our energy and motivate us to keep moving forward. On the other hand, the absence of meaning can lead to feelings of apathy, despair, and lack of direction. According to Frankl, the search for meaning can be found in three main areas: creating a work or doing a deed, experiencing something or encountering someone, and adopting a stance toward unavoidable suffering. Each of these areas offers an opportunity to find a purpose, which, in turn, can increase our energy and motivation. For example, someone dedicated to a creative project or a humanitarian cause may find a deep sense of fulfillment and energy, even in the face of challenges and sacrifices. Integrating Csikszentmihalyi and Frankl's perspectives, we can understand that energy and the meaning of life are closely connected. The state of flow is a manifestation of deep connection with activities that are meaningful to us, while the search for meaning provides the broader context in which these activities fit. When our actions align with our values and deeper goals, we not only experience the state of flow more often but also cultivate sustained energy and a lasting sense of purpose. In practical terms, this means identifying and pursuing activities that put us in a flow state and reflecting on the broader meaning of our actions and choices. This may involve pursuing work we love, cultivating meaningful relationships, or dedicating ourselves to causes we consider important. Moreover, recognizing and accepting life's difficulties as opportunities for growth and learning can transform difficult experiences into sources of resilience and renewed energy. The importance of energy and the meaning of life cannot be underestimated, as they are central elements to psychological well-being and personal fulfillment. The experience of flow and the search for meaning are like two sides of the same coin, where one feeds the other. Through the practice of activities that engage and challenge us, and the reflection on the purpose of our lives, we can cultivate a rich and renewable source of vital energy. Chapter 8: The Second Half of Life in the Search for Purpose. The second half of life is often marked by a significant shift from external concerns to a more introspective and internal search for meaning and purpose. James Hollis, in his work The Middle Passage, describes this transition as a crucial movement in the journey of human development. According to Hollis, the first half of life is typically dominated by external demands and expectations, such as career, social status, family formation, and material achievements. However, as people age, deeper questions about the meaning of their lives and the legacy they wish to leave begin to emerge. Hollis argues that this transition, often called the Middle Passage, is a phase of reevaluation and rediscovery. During this period, people may experience an identity crisis or feel a sense of emptiness even after achieving what many consider external success. This feeling of emptiness may indicate that the values and goals that once guided their lives are no longer satisfactory. The Middle Passage is thus an opportunity to reconnect with the authentic self and explore new meanings and purposes that resonate more deeply with the individual's true essence. Historical examples of figures exemplifying the importance of this internal search include Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi. Both underwent significant periods of introspection and personal growth, leading them to live according to an inner calling rather than simply responding to external pressures. Nelson Mandela, after years of imprisonment, emerged as a leader advocating for reconciliation and justice, setting aside any personal resentment to focus on a greater purpose of national unity. His life exemplifies how the second half of life can be a time of great personal transformation and redirection toward meaningful causes. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi underwent a profound transformation throughout his life. Initially trained as a lawyer, he began advocating nonviolent resistance as a way to fight injustice. Gandhi's shift to an internal focus, guided by principles of truth and nonviolence, exemplifies how the second half of life can be dedicated to following what the psyche wishes to express. He became a symbol of social and moral change, showing that true leadership and impact come from deep internal coherence and a commitment to spiritual and ethical values. Hollis suggests that the search for purpose in the second half of life is essentially a search for the self. It is a journey beyond the masks and social roles that often dominate the first half of life. This period is characterized by greater acceptance of who we truly are, including our limitations and imperfections. Instead of seeking external approval, the focus shifts to living an authentic life in accordance with our deepest values. This transition also involves confronting and integrating aspects of the psyche that were previously denied or repressed. Often, individuals discover that certain talents, interests, or aspirations left aside in favor of more immediate responsibilities can be rediscovered and cultivated. This reevaluation may lead to new careers, hobbies, or even a complete reorientation of lifestyle. The second half of life thus offers a unique opportunity to revisit and honor these parts of ourselves that were ignored or underestimated. The importance of following what the psyche wishes to express during this phase is crucial for achieving a sense of completeness and fulfillment. Refusal to listen to this inner call can result in a persistent sense of dissatisfaction or existential crisis. On the other hand, those who embrace this journey often find a new vitality and clarity of purpose. They become capable of contributing to the world in ways that are truly meaningful, not only to themselves but also to others. Chapter 9: Culture, Adaptation, and Authenticity. The formation of the ego and the search for authenticity are deeply influenced by culture and social interactions. Erik Erikson, in his theory of psychosocial development, describes how identity development is an ongoing process that occurs at different stages throughout life. One of the most critical stages Erikson highlights is identity versus identity confusion, which typically occurs during adolescence. In this stage, individuals explore different roles and identities, seeking a sense of cohesion and authenticity amidst cultural and social influences. Culture plays a central role in forming identity, providing the standards, norms, and expectations that shape ego development. Every culture has its own values and beliefs that influence how individuals see themselves and the world. For example, in cultures that value collectivism and conformity, identity development may be more centered on adapting to social standards and fulfilling others' expectations. In contrast, cultures that value individuality and autonomy may promote identity development that emphasizes self-expression and personal authenticity. In the identity versus identity confusion stage, young people are particularly susceptible to cultural and social influences as they try to define who they are in relation to others and the world around them. The pressures to conform to cultural standards can lead to identity confusion, where the individual struggles to find a balance between their own inclinations and external expectations. This conflict can result in feelings of inadequacy or alienation, especially if the dominant culture does not value or recognize the individual's personal aspirations and interests. The search for authenticity, as discussed by Carl Rogers in On Becoming a Person, is a response to these cultural and social pressures. Rogers proposes that authenticity is essential to living a genuine life aligned with the self. He argues that everyone has an innate potential to grow and develop authentically, but this potential can be stifled by external pressures and the need for conformity. Authenticity, then, involves the courage to be true to oneself, even in the face of external expectations and judgments. Rogers describes the process of becoming a person as a movement towards congruence, where there is a greater alignment between internal experience and external expression. This means that a person's feelings, thoughts, and behaviors are aligned and expressed openly and honestly. Congruence is achieved through self-exploration and unconditional self-acceptance, which Rogers sees as the foundation for self-actualization. When a person is congruent, they live more fully and authentically, able to respond to situations genuinely and creatively. The search for authenticity also implies resistance to cultural and social pressures that attempt to impose a fixed identity or set of expectations on the individual. For Rogers, authenticity is not a complete rejection of culture but a critical and selective integration of cultural values that are congruent with the authentic self. This requires continuous reflection on which aspects of culture and social norms truly resonate with personal values and which are adopted only out of conformity or fear of rejection. A practical example of cultural influence and the search for authenticity can be seen in the lives of many young adults who face pressure to pursue traditional or high-paying careers, even if these choices do not resonate with their interests and passions. In such cases, the journey to authenticity may involve exploring alternative paths that, while less conventional or financially secure, provide a greater sense of fulfillment and alignment with the authentic self. Cultural adaptation, then, can be a process of both assimilation and resistance. On the one hand, individuals assimilate aspects of culture that help structure their identities and provide a sense of belonging. On the other hand, resistance is necessary when aspects of culture conflict with the authentic development of the self. The key to healthy adaptation is the ability to navigate between these two processes, using culture as a resource for self-exploration and growth without losing oneself in the demands of conformity. Authenticity, as described by Rogers, also has important implications for mental health. When people cannot live authentically, they may experience internal dissonance leading to stress, anxiety, and other psychological issues. Client-centered therapy, developed by Rogers, focuses on creating an environment of unconditional acceptance, empathy, and congruence by the therapist. This therapeutic environment allows individuals to explore their true emotions and thoughts, facilitating movement toward greater authenticity and congruence. Chapter 10: Facing Depression and Finding New Purpose. Depression is an experience that can involve a range of intense and often overwhelming emotions that profoundly affect the lives of those who face it. Andrew Solomon, in his work The Noonday Demon, explores the depths and complexities of this condition, offering an intimate and comprehensive view of the various forms that depression can take. Solomon describes depression as a shadow that overshadows life, draining energy and meaning, and plunging the individual into a sense of hopelessness and despair. Depression, according to Solomon, is an experience that often defies the simplistic understanding of being just extreme sadness. It can include a loss of interest in previously enjoyable activities, changes in sleep and appetite, difficulties in concentration, and an overwhelming sense of worthlessness. These experiences can deeply destabilize a person's identity and the sense of purpose that may have once been clear and defined. Solomon discusses how depression can collapse the internal and external structures that support a meaningful life, leaving the individual adrift in a sea of confusion and anguish. However, Solomon also addresses the possibility that depression, despite its intense pain, can be an opportunity for reevaluation and personal transformation. In this sense, he echoes Carl Jung's theories about confronting the shadow and growth through suffering. Jung suggests that the shadow is composed of the aspects of personality that are rejected or unrecognized by consciousness. Facing the shadow can be a painful process, but it can also lead to profound growth and the development of a new sense of self. Depression can thus be seen as a call to face these dark and unresolved aspects of the psyche. It is a state that forces introspection and reconsideration of values, goals, and meanings. Jung believed that confronting the shadow could result in greater integration of the personality and the discovery of a new purpose. Through this process, the individual can emerge with a richer and more complete understanding of themselves, including strengths and weaknesses, light and shadow. This view that depression can be an opportunity for realignment is supported by many stories of people who found a new purpose after going through periods of depression. The process of facing it can lead to deep questioning of what is truly important in life. Often, depression reveals that previous goals and objectives were not authentic or satisfactory, leading to a search for something more meaningful and aligned with the true self. An example of this can be seen in individuals who, after facing depression, decide to radically change careers, adopt new life philosophies, or engage in social and humanitarian causes. These individuals often report that the experience of depression forced them to confront aspects of themselves and their lives that were not working, allowing them to redefine their purpose and find new sources of meaning. They discover that by integrating the lessons learned during this dark period, they can live more fully and authentically. The process of finding a new purpose after depression is not necessarily linear or easy. It involves deep emotional work and often the support of therapies and treatments that help the individual navigate the complex feelings that arise. therapy can provide a safe space to explore these feelings, understand the thought patterns that contribute to depression, and develop new ways of dealing with emotional suffering. Additionally, practices like mindfulness, meditation, and other forms of self-care can help cultivate greater resilience and emotional well-being. For many, the journey through depression is a battle to regain a sense of control and agency over their lives. Solomon emphasizes that despite the darkness that depression can bring, it is possible to find light and meaning by persevering and seeking help. The support of friends, family, and mental health professionals is crucial in helping the individual rebuild their life and find a path that is truly meaningful. Depression can be seen not just as a state of despair but as a potentially transformative phase that offers the chance to reevaluate life and realign with a new purpose. It challenges the individual to look deeply within, confront harsh realities, and emerge with a new understanding of themselves and their place in the world. This transformation is not just about overcoming depression but about using the experience to build a life that is richer, more authentic, and full of purpose. The search for answers to fundamental questions like why am I here, and in service of what, is an essential journey that everyone faces at some point in their lives. These questions are central to understanding our purpose and sense of existence. The work The Art of Living by Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, reminds us of the importance of living a life with purpose. Epictetus teaches that to live a full and meaningful life, it is crucial to identify and pursue what truly matters, aligning our actions and choices with ethical principles and a greater sense of duty. Epictetus proposes that a virtuous life is one in which we dedicate ourselves to something beyond ourselves, whether it is a commitment to justice, wisdom, or compassion. He emphasizes that true purpose is not found in wealth or the relentless pursuit of fleeting pleasures but in dedication to a greater cause and adherence to what is good and right. This involves a constant reflection on our motivations and actions, ensuring that they align with a higher and more meaningful purpose. The need to align with the self and seek a meaningful purpose is a recurring theme in the works of Viktor Frankl and Carl Jung. Frankl, in his existential analysis, argues that the search for meaning is the primary motivation of human beings. He suggests that even in the most challenging circumstances, like those he experienced in Nazi concentration camps, finding a purpose can provide extraordinary strength to survive and thrive. For Frankl, meaning is not something automatically found but something actively discovered, often through challenges and suffering. Carl Jung, for his part, emphasizes the importance of connecting with the authentic self. He believes that every individual possesses an inner core of truth and authenticity, often obscured by social pressures and external expectations. Individuation, or the process of becoming fully who one is central to Jung's approach. He sees the search for purpose as a path to integrate all parts of the psyche, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, and achieve internal harmony. This alignment with the self is seen as crucial for living a full and authentic life. Aligning with the self and seeking a meaningful purpose is not an easy task but one of the most rewarding. It requires a continuous commitment to self-knowledge and honesty with oneself and the courage to confront and integrate challenging aspects of our personality and experience. It is a process of self-discovery that allows us to live according to our deepest values and realize our maximum potential. Thank you for sticking with us until the end. Your likes and subscription are very important to us. Help us keep the Books Project alive and continue delivering high-quality content. Wishing you peace, and see you next time.